there's a difference between an approval for funding and an approval for extension.
Yeah.
In terms of, because if you start right from July, it's clear that it was for 6 months. The task team was established for 6 months, after which there was a review or an evaluation to say, this is how we've performed in the last 6 months. And there is a need then to extend, which would be approved by National Commissioner and the Minister. And these extensions were done up to 2022. That is the second part, the second aspect. So the approvals for funding are one thing. The approval for the extension and further existence is a different matter. That is my determination, or that's what I've come to understand.
It appears that recommendation by Lieutenant General Dimpani was never accepted by the National Commissioner, because the National Commissioner, as you see from page 238, then approves funding for 20 million.
That is one matter, but I am arguing before the ad hoc committee that there was an extension. There were extensions 6 months after the establishment, 12 months after the establishment, and it continued up to 2022, with the National Commissioner approving, with the Minister approving up to 2022, signing and getting presentations in terms of assessing the further need for the task team. When you see the CFO saying, I will not approve 94 million, there's a problem, and then recommends disestablishment and a work study. That is what would have met the prescripts of the PFMA, that you go for a work study beyond a particular period. You go for a work study, you produce results, you make a presentation, and then so that you approve the budget. It's not budgetary approval without a proper assessment of the need presented, among others, to the minister, so that you continue in the form that it had been intended to. But I know what happened, how the gap got brought in. When General Stoller left in 2022, which was the last time that the approval of 2022, or the approval that I'm talking about, came, which had been the practice before, there was no proper handover between the then National Commissioner and the new National Commissioner, which is General Masimolo. There was a gap. I know that the gap was caused by the fact that when General Stoller left, he was then required to hand over to the minister because the general was not there, had not been appointed. And General Stoller had an objection saying that he has to hand over to another national commissioner, can't hand over to the minister. And then there was a break, there was a gap. After that, what has been happening is the approval of finances, not, in other words, approval for funding, which is different from further approval for the existence of the political killings task team as per its objective, where you sit and assess the need as per the original objective. But the second point is that as early as 2019, the specialized units had been established. And the reason why there was an extended need for the existence of the task team beyond 2019, it was because the task teams, the specialized units that had been envisaged to replace the task team were still in formation. In other words, they were still being established. Now, the view or the vision was that once we will have all these specialized task teams fully functional, you would then cease to have the political killings task team, which itself was a kind of a silo, because it pulled different people from elsewhere, put them together elsewhere, and they were dealing with one province in isolation of other provinces where otherwise matters were taking place. Now, you then needed to approve every year so that you justify the existence of the political task team, which would then form the basis of your approval for funding. That's where my argument is. I differentiate between the approval for funding and an approval for the further existence of the political task team. So what we are talking about was the approval for funding without a necessary assessment for further existence in line with the original objectives of the task team. And I'm adding another one. I'm adding that you now had a different scenario where you had units, specialized units, but which were still in formation. Now, by the time General Masimula approves, as he has done this year, he is doing that over and above the study that got approved in 2019, which has the political killings task team already as a subunit and other specialized task team, including taxi violence and so on. And this is a structure that we approved in November last year, because we looked at that work study of 2019, which had been approved and signed off. And we say here, you have what is ideal. Now, remember, by the time we approve the structure, we have the imperatives of the 7th administration, which, among others, say you need to make people of South Africa, all of them, feel safe. Not some people somewhere. Not a certain grouping of people called public representatives or councillors or those who are political. You now have a new direction, a new political imperative that say protect all the people of South Africa, make them feel safe. And in fact, it is in line with the Constitution of the Republic. The Constitution of the Republic doesn't allow you to protect some and not others. It doesn't. So when we looked at that is when I wrote the directive. I took into consideration, I'm still going to go to the reasons, but I'm just picking up that you had to, you can't freeze people. You now have a new structure that caters for the needs, for the need of the, or further need of the political killings task team. You are establishing those specialized units, and you have actually gone to establish others, and that you are on your way going forward. But then you still approve the existence. Now, what are you finding? You are going to find that those people who are in the murder and robbery unit that was approved in 2019, approved again when we did the structure in 2024, they are going to sit and not do their work because the political killings task team is there, and it's them who are not going to do work. That's what you're finding in Gauteng, for instance. They have these units in terms of the new structure. Serious and violent crimes, and you have organized crime. And if you establish a political killings task team in Gauteng, it means you are putting them over and above organized crime units, over and above organized crime, serious and violent crimes unit. There are two units that are now existing. Then you put, so what you are going to do with your fund, you are going to pull people into the political killings task team, and those who remain in these two units, they are not going to do anything. But you are going to be piling people with an undefined kind of situation. And you're not going to be effective on the ground. There's just no way you are going to be effective on the ground because you are piling people for the same task. Now, I'm then explaining two processes that are separate. You create the political killings task team for a particular objective. You assess it in 6 months. You then sign to extend it up to 2022. And you don't do it after 2022. But all you do, you approve funding for that. And from where I sit, you don't meet the prescripts of the PFMA. And therefore, if you're called by SCOP, if I'm called by SCOP to say, how do you justify what you were funding beyond 2022, we will not have an answer. Because what the motivations that you were getting, they were motivations for money. They were not motivations based on proper assessment for the need to, because if you did the need for further existence, you would have found that the structure has since been reviewed in the form of specialized units, which was not there when the task team was established in 2018. That's my argument.
Okay. Thank you, Minister.